While most of us enjoy the lights and gifts, a special group of people is busy filing the most unhinged reports you've ever heard. We're talking about holiday entitlement so extreme it makes the Grinch look like a saint. From neighbors suing over menacing snowmen to parents mad that Santa isn't fluent in Elvish, these ridiculous Christmas complaints are a masterclass in seasonal insanity. Here are the people who somehow found a way to ruin their own holiday spirit. The terrifying nutcrackers. A woman at a boutique demanded a refund for traditional nutcrackers because their faces were viscerally terrifying. She claimed the toothy grins and unblinking eyes looked like horror movie props. She couldn't sleep, convinced the wooden soldiers were watching her from the mantelpiece with malicious intent. She argued the store was negligent for selling psychologically damaging toys that haunted her dreams. Seriously, if they were so scary, why did you buy them? The weaponized candy cane. A man filed a formal complaint with a major candy manufacturer because candy canes are inherently dangerous. After sucking on them for 10 minutes, the end becomes a shiv-like needle that could be used as a lethal weapon. He demanded all candy canes be manufactured in a circular shape to prevent accidental stabbings during holiday festivities. Imagine being so afraid of a peppermint treat that you want to redesign centuries of tradition. The unholy alliance. A mother spotted Santa and the Grinch laughing together over fries at the mall food court. She filed a formal complaint claiming this unholy alliance shattered the magic for her kids. Since they're sworn enemies in the movies, she argued seeing them as friends was theatrical fraud that confused the youth. She expected them to maintain a hostile rivalry even during their unpaid lunch breaks. The scentless failure. A customer in Ohio returned his high-end plastic tree because it didn't smell like a forest. When the manager pointed out it was made of PVC and wire, the man argued that for $300, the company should have infused the plastic with organic molecular pine essence. He accused the store of selling a scentless failure and demanded they pay for his gasoline to drive to a real tree farm. The holiday exhaustion claim. One man filed an insurance claim for post-seasonal sensory overload. He argued that 3 weeks of bright lights, loud music, and forced social interaction left him in clinical exhaustion. He demanded the company pay for a 2-week Caribbean retreat to recover from the trauma of Christmas cheer, describing the holiday as a hostile environment for introverts. The criminal Grinch. A homeowner received a cease and desist letter from her HOA regarding her giant inflatable Grinch. A neighbor complained that the Grinch's sinister smirk was a bad influence on neighborhood children and encouraged them to consider a life of crime. The complaint stated that having a known thief on the lawn violated community safety standards. Since when did a cartoon character become a credible threat to suburban security? Santa's expensive watch. A mother in Seattle wrote a scathing email to mall management because the Santa on duty was wearing a luxury Rolex. She argued that a man who lives in a North Pole workshop would never have a high-end Swiss timepiece. She claimed the watch shattered the magical immersion for her 6-year-old, who is apparently a junior expert in luxury horology. She wanted the mall to reimburse her for the ruined childhood moment. The crying toddler photo. A mother in New Jersey demanded a full refund because her toddler was crying in the Santa photo. She argued the photography company was contractually obligated to provide a joyful holiday memory. She suggested they used advanced AI technology to swap her son's screaming face for a smiling one in post-production. She literally wanted to pay for a lie to make her Instagram feed look perfect. Mathematically insufficient stockings. A grandmother filed a family grievance in a group text because the stockings her daughter hung were mathematically insufficient. She argued the physical size limited the potential value of gifts inside, effectively capping the joy of her grandchildren. She demanded they be replaced with giant industrial-sized sacks to ensure the kids knew exactly how much money was spent. The aggressive ho-ho-ho. A man called the police to complain about a disorderly Santa at a local parade shouting ho-ho-ho too loudly. He argued the volume was aggressive and startled his cat, who was watching from the living room window. He wanted police to issue a noise citation and suggested future Santas use a gentle, library-appropriate whisper to avoid disturbing the local feline population. The overly dense tree. Residents in Seattle tried to return a premium noble fir because it was too needly. The buyer argued the dense foliage was claustrophobic, making it impossible to hang designer ornaments without losing them in the greenery. She suggested lot employees should have pre-pruned the tree to a minimalist look. She threatened to report the lot for selling over-engineered nature. The joint account gift. One woman demanded a 50% refund on a luxury sweater because it was bought from a joint account. She argued that since half the funds were hers, she essentially paid for half her own present. She called it a financial scam and wanted her half of the cash back to make up for his lack of effort. The cinnamon stick crisis. A shopper in Texas considered scented ornaments a chemical assault. She filed a complaint because the cinnamon stick scent triggered massive cravings, which she claims sabotaged her holiday fitness goals. She argued the company used sensory manipulation to force her into buying snacks and demanded a refund for gas spent driving to a real tree farm. The obstructed mountain view. A guest at a luxury hotel in Colorado complained because the view from his window was too snowy. He argued the heavy blizzard blocked his view of the mountains, which he'd specifically paid for in his premium view package. He demanded a 50% refund for the nights it was snowing, claiming the hotel was responsible for obstructing scenery with weather. The soft Santa. In Florida, a father complained because the mall Santa refused to scold his son for being a brat. He argued that for the price of a photo, Santa should threaten the kid with no presents to make him behave. He called Santa too soft for not being intimidating enough. The elitist white gloves. Parents at a community event protested because Santa was wearing white gloves. One mother argued that since Santa is a laborer who works with wood and soot, clean gloves were a sign of elitism and a betrayal of his blue-collar roots. She demanded the actor wear heavy-duty work gloves or get grease stains on the white ones to stay relatable. The naked snowmen. Online shoppers left a scathing review because their wrapping paper featured snowmen without scarves. They argued that portraying cold-weather characters without proper winter attire was a form of animated animal cruelty and sent a dangerous message to kids about hypothermia. They insisted on a full recall and reprint with warm accessories. The closed store emergency. A man in Chicago called the police on a local store for being closed on Christmas Day. He told the dispatcher that the store's lack of availability was a public service failure, causing childhood trauma in his living room. He genuinely believed a retail store is a mandatory utility that should be forced to stay open on a national holiday. The festive shipping box. A man blamed the retailer for his package being stolen, stating the shipping box was too festive and acted as a neon sign for thieves. He argued the company should use stealth packaging that looks like a box of diapers or a bag of trash to deter criminals. He expected the shipping department to act as a private security firm. The unfulfilling turkey. A woman tried to return a massive half-eaten turkey on December 27th, claiming it was unfulfilling. Her actual complaint was that the bird didn't look like the one in commercials when she pulled it out of her oven. She blamed the store for selling a low-prestige animal that ruined her dinner party's aesthetic. The seasonal rental stand. A woman tried to return a heavy-duty tree stand on December 26th, admitting she only used it for 3 weeks. She argued that since the seasonal utility had expired, she was entitled to a full refund. She called the store's refusal predatory and claimed they were forcing her to store useless junk in her garage for a year. The foreign precipitation. A man filed a formal grievance against his neighbor for illegal snow dumping after the neighbor shoveled his own sidewalk. He claimed that snow moved onto the edge of his lawn was foreign precipitation, damaging the native soil. He demanded the neighbor use a portable heater to melt the displaced snow immediately or face a $50 daily fine. The toxic poinsettias. A woman returned poinsettias to a nursery because she read an online post claiming they're deadly poisonous. Even after staff explained you'd have to eat an entire forest to get a mild stomachache, she remained hysterical. She claimed that just having them in her entryway was negligent endangerment and demanded the nursery pay for a professional deep cleaning. The wrong shade of white. A homeowner in California received an HOA warning because his outdoor lights were the wrong shade of white. A neighbor used a mite meter to prove his lights were cool white while the rest of the street was warm white, creating visual disharmony. The complaint demanded replacement within 48 hours or daily fines for aggressive illumination. The lasagna invoice. After a Christmas party, a guest sent the host an itemized invoice for the labor and materials of her signature lasagna. She argued that since the host requested her dish, it was a freelance catering gig rather than a social contribution. She even added a 20% holiday weekend surcharge to the bill. The low engagement dress. A woman tried to return a designer dress on December 27th, arguing it was defective because her Instagram photos in it didn't get as many likes as her sister-in-law's post. She blamed the dress for her poor social media performance and demanded a refund for her public embarrassment. The sarcastic joy sign. One woman filed a harassment complaint against her neighbor's glowing joy sign because she felt it was too sarcastic. Since she was going through a messy divorce, she argued the cheerful letters were a passive-aggressive attack on her misery and demanded the city force a change to something neutral. The historically shallow carolers. Carolers in a quiet suburb were told to leave after a resident complained they didn't know the lyrics to a specific obscure hymn from the Middle Ages. He called their performance historically shallow and intellectually insulting because they only sang popular hits. He argued that if they were going to harass him with music, they should be educated in the liturgical history of the season.